Right, let me tell you, this 2-week wait was a wild ride. I am now 24 weeks pregnant and I've had to go back through my notes to remind myself of what happened, and I literally had to relive it, which was even more stressful. I was 100% sure I was pregnant, and then I thought I was having a chemical pregnancy, and now I'm 24 weeks pregnant. So if you're new to my channel, then I have actually had 2 previous miscarriages. So this is my second rainbow baby. We have a daughter called Lila Rose, who is 3 years old, and we got pregnant with her 2 weeks after a miscarriage, an early miscarriage. And then we had a miscarriage last year and decided to not try again for a little while, and then fell pregnant with this baby straight away, and I knew straight away as well. So I'm kind of going to go through my pregnancy test. I'm literally going to show you the pregnancy line progression. I will also go through like day by day, kind of from probably to DPO, what my symptoms were basically. So to give you guys a little bit of comfort, I've had 4 pregnancies, and the first 2, which one of them was Lila Rose, I had no symptoms whatsoever. So if you're watching these videos obsessively, like most of us do in the 2-week wait, and you're really not sure about your symptoms or you barely have anything, just know I had a daughter and another pregnancy and literally had no symptoms all the way through. Right, let's go straight into this because you're in like the wait of your life, so you don't really want to be waiting for me, do you? Now, my ovulation window would have been the 29th of January to the 4th of February. That's kind of the week of ovulation. We did the deed on the 31st. We then did the deed again on the 2nd of February. Now, on the 3rd of February is where I started getting the symptoms. Now, I wrote aching lower left ovary a lot in capitals, and tender breasts. The tender breast part is the bit that just straight away I just thought something's going on here. Normally I only get boob changes the week leading up to my period. When I started getting it 2 weeks before my period, I thought that's very odd. Then we go to the next day and it was nausea and again tender breasts. I'm pretty sure I put tender breasts on absolutely everything. The next day I did not put anything. The next day after that, so this was 4 days after doing the deed, I had bloating. Again, I had tender boobs, creamy discharge as well. This is going to be TMI, you guys know this. Next day after that, I can't stop peeing, full bladder each time for the past 4 days. Also pains lower down. Implantation, I put as a question mark. I remember this because I'm not one to pee a lot at all. I thought that was quite unusual because I thought that happened later on in pregnancy, like it's happening more now that I'm 24 weeks. I definitely put that as some sort of weird symptom for me. 9 days before my period was due, again I had bloating. This time I had lower back pain and again tender breasts. 8 days before my period was due, boobs are big. I'm flat chested near enough, so when there's changes in my boobs, I notice the changes in my boobs. Like I said, if my boobs are going to change, it's going to happen around 5 days before. But I did put I don't feel pregnant today. And I did put that I felt quite depressed. I'm not sure if I felt depressed because I didn't feel pregnant and I was worrying about it, or if that was the hormones just starting to kick in. A week before, I took a pregnancy test. I don't know why I took a pregnancy test. It was obviously negative. Feels like I'm wrong now, so I was obviously getting myself stressed out. I had nausea. And again, my boobs. Boobs are on every single day. 6 days before, bloating, boobs, and again, still had nausea. Now this is where it starts to get really interesting. 4 days before my period was due, I decided I would start taking early detection tests. And I kid you not, I will never do it again, ever. Here's the roller coaster. Let's go through this together. My boobs have shrunk and not so tender with a crying face. 2 p.m. I did a clear blue early detection pregnancy test. A very faint line, and I will put the pictures up for you. Feel very confused and upset. Expected it to be nothing or darker because I felt pregnant for so long. Where I had felt pregnant for like 2 weeks already, I thought there must be enough hormones in my system for it to show up. I then in the evening did another cheap early detection, another faint line, and I just put I'm going to see if it's darker in the morning. I did have bloating. I was anxious because I was stressing myself out, and my boobs were still tender. This is the start of the roller coaster. 3 days before my period was due, in the morning I did a cheap early detection. It was fainter and it was almost negative, so that was my feeling of okay, probably having a chemical miscarriage then. 2 days before the period was due, this is where it got extremely stressful and very upsetting. So that morning I did a cheap early detection test and it was completely negative. There wasn't even a hint of a faint line. It was absolutely negative. My boobs felt fuller, which made me a little bit worried because obviously that normally happens just before my period was due, and I literally put, I feel so angry because I just wish I never had strong symptoms. I would have started bleeding, thought it was my period, and have been none the wiser. I was convinced. It was like, okay, chemical pregnancy. Clearly. Day before my period was due, in the morning I took another clear and simple early response. It was almost negative in the time frame, but then it got darker after 5 minutes, and they always say never read it after the time frame, which for this one was 5 minutes. Minutes. I just want to stop and put a little note in here and tell you what early detection test that was. I'm going to put it on screen here because I got this one from Home Bargains. It was a cheapie. I know cheapies can be good, but I really highly recommend you not to use it, and I wouldn't normally say that, but it was this test that kept showing the faint lines. It was this test that did the damage, that stressed me out so much. I'm just going to say that there. Let's carry on. Just to be obsessive, I took 3 normal cheap pregnancy tests and they all came up with a darker line than I've ever had. All of them. So literally at the same time, I used the same urine and I took 4 different tests. That early detection one was the only one that was negative. Day of period. Now at this point I was like, screw those early detection tests, never going near those again. Let's start just using the normal cheap strips that you can get because they're highly recommended. In the morning I took one of those, darker line. It's literally in capitals this time, darker in the time frame. Day after my period was due, a strong positive. It's getting darker now. My nipples have been so tender and I'm tired, so nauseous today though. So those were my main ones. Did I write anything else? And I wrote bloating as well. Hi, don't mind me. Editing Lottie is just jumping right in here very quickly because I feel like I've missed out the most important bit of this roller coaster. So I've watched the next bit of footage and I'm actually going to cut it out and add in this instead because I don't reiterate the importance of the next bit, which is basically the next 2 weeks I continue having very similar symptoms, but I also started getting orange and brown discharge and I got a lot of it as well. I obviously assumed the worst, like what a lot of people do when they see spotting. When it got to the 6-week mark, which is where we've previously had both miscarriages, the discharge turned from brown to red. Proper blood red, but it was discharge. Obviously, me and Rick assumed that it was a miscarriage. We got straight to a private scan just to double check, and to our absolute shock, literally nearly fell off the bed. There was a heartbeat and everything was absolutely fine. I don't think in the footage that I did film, I don't think I stressed the importance of that and of you guys knowing that. I do know that spotting and bleeding in early pregnancy can be a sign of something more serious, but there are also a lot of cases like me where everything's absolutely fine and everything is absolutely fine. So yeah, I just kind of wanted you guys to know that, and let's get back to the video. I honestly know how hard it is to resist doing those early detection tests, but I swear down to you now, if I was doing it again, I just wouldn't have gone near them. I was so stressed out seeing that line get darker, then suddenly get fainter, and it was just awful. I honestly sympathise with you guys that are going through the 2-week wait because I know how stressful it is, especially if you've had miscarriages as well. I do have another video that I filmed when we had Lila Rose, and I filmed my story of how we got pregnant after miscarriage and just kind of her story, my like rainbow baby story. I hope this video kind of gives you a little bit of hope. Go check out that other video as well if you want to. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!